Hello babies and welcome back to my channel. It is your girl Hena J. Bryan, aka Bookish Babe, and I am back with another video. So recently I read Really Good Actually by Monica Heisey and it inspired this video. If you haven't already read Really Good Actually, I highly recommend it, especially if you are a fan of Sorrow and Bliss by Meg Mason, which was one of my favorite reads in 2022. Now, as the title suggests, guys, I am going to be going through a list of books that feature main characters that I believe to be mentally unhinged and emotionally turbulent. Now, before anyone gets at me, I don't mean this in a disrespectful way, and this list I hold dear to my heart because these are books that I recommend on a day-to-day basis. The characters are crazy. They are completely whacked. They are so absolutely unimaginably just out of this world that they have to be fiction. Like, it makes sense why they're fiction. And to kickstart the list, I obviously have to talk about the main character in Really Good Actually by Monica Heisey, which is Maggie. Now, Maggie is going through a divorce in her late 20s, and I don't know for Maggie. Like, the book really shook me because I had to really confront myself and ask myself, as an anxious person, as someone diagnosed with generalized anxiety disorder, was I this chaotic when I experienced heartbreak? And I want to say no, but the reality of the situation is that I probably was as chaotic as Maggie in this book. Maggie was so pathetic, so tragic, so mentally unhinged and emotionally turbulent that it made me sick to read her story. And it came to a point in the book that I was just like, this woman does not need a storyline. She needs therapy. So I was really happy when Maggie finally went to therapy after denying that she didn't need therapy for a really, really long time. If you haven't read this book, I highly recommend it because it is just, it's funny, it's sad, it's pathetic, it's just a true representation of heartbreak that I feel like a lot of people need to read about. Maggie was mentally unhinged and emotionally turbulent throughout the entire book. Her friends were sick of her, I was sick of her. I feel like she was sick of herself, and she finally realized that she was on a path of self-destruction and she went to therapy. Thank you, Lord, because I was scared for her. The next book that I want to talk about is lustre by Raven Leilani, and this one is less funny because the main character Eddie was mentally unhinged and emotionally turbulent in a way that made me just want to pay for her therapy sessions in advance. I just wanted to put down $1,000 for like 10 or 15 therapy sessions for this main character because I just did not understand why she was so self-destructive and why she was so sad, and I really just wanted her to be happy within herself and in her life, but she wasn't. I've also realized that there is a trend of Black authors writing about interracial relationships with the Black main characters or the Black female main characters being in relationships with white men when they are just not in a good space. And I don't know what we're hinting at here, but I don't like it. Eddie in Lustre, sis didn't need sex. She did not need penis. She did not need to be involved with a married man. She needed therapy and she needed a hug. Like, it was kind of sad to read her story. However, Lustre is beautifully written. It's literary fiction, which is my favorite. And even though the ending frustrated me, I just felt like the book was beautiful through and through. But Eddie needed therapy and she needed a massive hug, preferably from me, because I feel like I give great hugs. The next book I want to talk about is His Only Wife by Peace Adzo Medie. Now, this is a book that I've spoken about a few times on this channel, and I read this maybe 2 years ago during the pandemic. Now, this one is just like the main character, Afi. She is both mentally unhinged and emotionally turbulent because only a woman who is not right here would enter a relationship with a man who already has a romantic partner, believing that she is going to be the one who changes him. Now, I don't know what sort of juice Afi was drinking when she thought that she was going to enter this relationship with Eli and change his mind about having a side piece. Like, the entire book just really annoys me because whilst I was reading it, I was just in my head like, Afi, you're a dizzy bitch. As Karen Huger, as the Grand Dame would say, you are a dizzy bitch.
You are the dizziest bitch sitting at the table.
Why did you feel like you could enter a marriage with a man who has an established relationship that all his family knows about, and even though they don't approve of it, he has not left this woman, and they have enlisted you to conduct their plan, and you have failed? And instead of taking what you can from the situation, because although he had a babe and he was married to you, he was rich and he was kind. And as opposed to making use of the fact that he was rich and kind and just making sure that you were sorted, you wanted to focus on making this man fall in love with you. You're a dizzy bitch. You are mentally unhinged. You are emotionally turbulent because you made no sense, and I cannot support you at all. The next book I want to talk about is Everything's Fine by Cecilia Rabess. I am not going to be talking too much about this book because I have an independent review coming. However, I just want to say that the main character, Jess, like Afi, like Eddie, like Maggie, was crazy. The next book I want to talk about is Sorrow and Bliss by Meg Mason. And in the book, the main character, Martha, I don't feel like I am being sensitive if I call her mentally unhinged, but she was definitely emotionally turbulent. However, I absolutely loved Sorrow and Bliss. It was one of my favorite reads of 2022. And I just feel like it was just so representative of people suffering with mental health issues. And although the mental health issue that Martha was struggling with was unnamed, I did feel seen. Mental health aside and Martha's storyline aside, the book is definitely white. And as a blackety black person, there were times that I just didn't feel like I could relate, but that is not a fault of the author. You have to write what you know, and it's up to me to look into this book and to peep into the life that you're talking about and make sense of it as much as I can. And I made sense of it regarding my mental health journey and how I deal with my generalized anxiety disorder. The book, I loved it. The writing is mwah. It's literary. One of my favorite reads of 2022, as I said, and I would highly, highly recommend it. The next book that I just feel like the main character was definitely emotionally turbulent. I want to say mentally unhinged, but I really, really like the character in this book. And I have to just disclaim that I genuinely don't like characters in books. Like, I don't like main characters in books. The last main character that I loved, and I mean loved in the sense that like I wanted to adopt this main character. I think about this main character often. And that main character was a Dunny in The Girl with the Loud Voice by ʔᴑᴜ. If you haven't heard me speak about this book, if you haven't even read this book, then click off this video, go and read the book and come back, and then it will all make sense to you. But yeah, I haven't liked a main character since a Dunny in The Girl with the Loud Voice by ʔᴑᴜ. However, Maddie in Mame by Jessica George, I absolutely adored Maddie. She was just so weird. At times I just felt like, are you normal? Like, are you normal? Can you read social situations correctly? Because I don't feel like you can. And it has to be more than inexperience. There has to be more to the story. Mame is a book that I read in January. You might have heard me speak about it on my Instagram, on my Twitter, as well as my TikTok and my YouTube. If you haven't, then I highly recommend that you go and read Mame by Jessica George. It's about a young Ghanaian girl who leaves her family home in her mid-20s to finally live her life and experiment with her career, experiment with money, experiment with sex. And it's just one of the most beautiful and funniest books that I've read in a really long time. And the main character, Maddie, was just, it was impossible not to like her. Do you know what I mean? I wanted the best for her. It was a book that had one of the best endings ever. Oh, my shawl fell off. It's a book that has one of the best endings ever. And I just feel like Maddie was definitely emotionally turbulent. She went through the highs and the lows, and it was a bit awkward at times. But her saving grace was the fact that she was extremely funny and that she just put herself out there and she was committed to finding herself and becoming a better person. It was really sad when she spoke about her experience with depression as well as anxiety, but all worked out for the good of Maddie in Mame by Jessica George. I absolutely loved it. She is now the second most liked character in Hena J. Bryan reading history. The first is Adani and then it's Mame. Yes, I absolutely love this book and I highly recommend it. It's super funny and I feel like it's a book I'm going to be speaking about throughout 2023. So the next book that I want to talk about is Convenience Store Woman by Sayaka Murata. I have to say that I feel like the main character is more questionable than she is mentally unhinged and emotionally turbulent. I just feel like Sayaka Murata's writing is very weird in a very dark and sinister yet comical way, that her main character Mayako was just definitely the weirdest character I've ever read. Ever. Her humor was so dark. At times, I felt like she might be on the spectrum because she found it difficult to interpret like social interactions and like social cues. The book really threw me because it wasn't what I was expecting. It was just so humorous. It was so pathetic. It was so tragic. It was just a lot. And it is translated Japanese fiction, which you guys know that I absolutely love and I absolutely swear by. The book is so short that I highly recommend you guys to read it, especially if you like weird fiction. But yeah, that book was really strange. Like really strange. And finally, the poster child of mentally unhinged and emotionally turbulent characters is definitely Katherine Earnshaw from Wuthering Heights. Now, I'm not going to say anything else. If you have read Wuthering Heights by Emily Bronte, which is a classic book, then you know that Katherine Earnshaw deserved so much more. She just deserved a mental asylum at best, a hug, and a cup of tea at worst. But yeah, reading Really Good Actually by Monica Heisey really inspired this video and made me think of all the characters in books that I just felt like needed a hug, or felt like needed therapy, or felt like needed an intervention, or felt like just needed some sort of prayer and fasting, child. And that is why I made this video, because I've read so many books of characters that I just feel like deserved more or needed more investment in by community. And I know they're all fiction, but a girl can actually just, you know, when I'm involved in fiction books, I'm involved. But yeah, guys, I highly recommend that you all read the books that I have recommended, because each and every book, whilst the main characters were questionable at times, all the books are beautifully written, all the books are entertaining, and all the books are books that I actually enjoyed. And you know how picky I am with reading. And yeah, please go and read them and let me know if you felt the same about the characters in these books. As said in the beginning of this video, it is your girl Hena J. Bryan, aka Bookish Babe. And please, if you haven't already followed me across Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok, my name is Hena J. Bryan, and I am active there more than I'm active here. You guys only get videos once a week on YouTube, but across my other social media platforms, you get more regular content. So if you want more bookish updates, if you want more reviews, if you want to know what I am doing on a day-to-day basis, make sure that you follow me. But yes, guys, until the next video, go and read those books and let me know whether I'm mentally unhinged and emotionally turbulent, or the characters are in fact mentally unhinged and emotionally turbulent. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Mwah! Bye.